What is up, everybody? I am Legend, and in today's video, I'm teaching how to make your vocals pop in a mix, giving them more character, essentially taking them from this
I can make it rain on your body. Daddy, make it rain like the lottery, girl.
to this.
I can make it rain on your body. Daddy, make it rain like the lottery, girl. Real girl to the floor.
Coming right up. Let's go. Hold on, wait 1 second. Before we get into this next tip, I just want to say that the Berserk plugin by Waves is going to be free for the next 48 hours from the date that this video is posted. So if you are watching this, you have 2 days to download this plugin. It's going to be linked below. You get your free copy of the Berserk plugin, Great Distortion by Waves. Better go get it because it's not going to be available for a long time. All right. Just want to say that it's all yours. All right. Love y'all. Now back to the video. Now the plugin is not necessarily the most important thing that you want to focus on. It's more so the techniques that I'm going to be using in today's video to make my vocals sound more lively in this mix. So first up, we're going to talk about compression. Now this is something that I recommend everybody use in their vocals, especially when you're trying to get something that stands out in the mix. Now the compression that we're going to be talking about today is one that I actually just started using. It's not the CLA 2A compressor, which is the one that I always talk about in my videos, but in this case it's going to be RVox, because this is an interesting compressor that does more than just compression. And also it's a very simple compressor that you can use in your mixes. As you can see, it has 3 different sliders. One is going to be for a noise gate that is built into this compressor. Then we have the compression itself in the middle, which is the main thing that we want to focus on. And then we have the gain, which is how much we're pumping out of that compressor, how much of the sound of the vocal we're going to get after we compress and put the gate on. Now let's listen to this vocal without any compression or the vocal writer.
All the real girls get down on the floor. I can let you blow the horn at the pad though.
Now, if you really pay attention and you're listening in your headphones, you can really hear how at the end of this vocal, there's a little bit of fading in and fading out. I could let you blow the horn at the pad though. When you're dealing with a vocal like this, what you want to do is compress that vocal. So when you're compressing a vocal, you're basically taking the loudest parts and making them quieter. You're taking the quieter parts and making them louder, essentially squashing them down into this compressed range to where everything feels like it's at a, not the same level, but it's within the same kind of range, so that you're not getting that. It's like, so you still get a little bit of the dynamics there, but it's not going to be as drastic. You can even see in the waveforms how I can let you blow the horn at the pad though. So let's throw on our RVox compressor. Let's turn this on. And what you want to do is going to start at 0. So first and foremost, what I'm going to do is I want to put the noise gate on there. So we want to cut out anything that's in between here, Now, this is not the best example of having noise in between my takes. But if you were chewing on something or there was sound going on in the background, the gate here is going to be something that you want to turn up so that you can take out those in-between noises. Now, it's not going to completely take out the noises, because this is not surgical noise gate, much like the ones that we see in some of these other plugins, but it is one that's going to help to quiet those noises. And once the music is playing, you're not going to hear them. There's a label here that says energy. And so this is going to be how much energy we're getting from our vocal, the dynamics of our vocal. So if we turn this up too much, we're going to have too much of that energy sucked out of our vocal. So I don't want to turn it up too much. Maybe if we go like halfway.
I can let you blow the horn at the pad though. I can let you blow the horn at the pad though.
So the gate is taking out that noise, as you can hear.
I can let you blow the horn at the pad though.
Whatever that noise is in the background. But as a result, because it's so extreme, it's also taking out a bit of our vocal.
I can let you blow the horn at the pad though. I can let you blow the horn at the pad though.
So let's go halfway. Take this down to maybe 17.
I can let you blow the horn at the pad though.
I like the way that sounds. So a really simple compressor to use. Now I want to jump into a little bit more characterization in our vocals. So this is a section of the song where I wanted to add some grit. This song is heavily inspired by Future Sex Love Sounds by Justin Timberlake and Timbaland. And so I wanted to get like a guitar, like grungy effect on my vocal, just on sections of my song. Not the entire song, but sections of my song. If you think about, I'm bringing sexy back, it's like, yeah. I wanted to put that on only certain parts of my song so that when it does come in, it's kind of like a little piece of candy that I'm throwing to the listener. And like, ooh, this is a little change up here. This feels a little different. This feels a little gritty. Okay, I like it. And then straight back into the normal singing. So the distortion that I used here is this Berserk Distortion by Waves. Now this plugin might look a little intimidating, at least it was for me when I first opened it up many years ago. And I only just started really using it recently, but that's because I've kind of gotten over that fear and just decided to start turning knobs and figuring out what things do. Let me just go ahead and start playing around with this. We have our vocal here.
I can make it rain on your body. Daddy, make it rain like the lottery, girl. Real girl to the floor.
And then with our distortion.
I can make it rain on your body. Daddy, make it rain like the lottery, girl. Real girl to the floor.
The way that I got this distortion here is because if you turn the input up to where it starts peaking and this starts turning red, you're going to get a little bit of distortion already.
I can make it rain on your body. Daddy, make it rain like the lottery, girl. Real girl to the floor.
If I'm being honest, I like the way that the vocal sounds when it's more present. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make the vocals pop and be more present, but give them character at the same time. So I just went ahead and turned the vocal up. I didn't want to turn the drive all the way up since we're already distorting the vocal by inputting past a certain point. You know, we're peaking the vocal essentially and distorting it in that way. So my drive, I turned maybe like a third of the way up. But also the density. So the density, when it was turned all the way down, this is what it sounds like.
Daddy, make it rain like the lottery, girl. Real girl to the floor.
Let's turn it up a little bit.
I can make it rain on your body. Daddy, make it rain like the lottery, girl. Real girl to the floor.
It's a bit too much. It's a bit too disordered. So I'm going to take that back down and get a good slight amount of that disorderly distortion here. I did come to the EQ, and you can choose to color the sound the way that you want by having the lows, the mids, or the highs being emphasized or kind of dialing them back a little bit. And you would do that by turning this blue knob here. Now, everything is self-taught here, okay? Everything is self-taught here. I'm teaching you what I know, all right?
I can make it rain on your body. Daddy, make it rain like the lottery, girl. Real girl to the floor.
Hear how it goes. That's because I'm turning the lows up. It's getting that like lower, but I don't want it to sound like that. So I turn that back down. I want it to be a more bright distortion.
I can make it rain on your body. Daddy, make it rain like the lottery, girl. Real girl to the floor. Daddy, make it rain like the lottery, girl. Real girl to the floor.
The mid makes it sound more like a little more boxy than I would like for it to sound. So I'm going to keep that kind of lower at the -3.2. The highs is where I want this distortion to really be emphasized.
I can make it rain on your body. Daddy, make it rain like the lottery, girl. Real girl to the floor.
Now that we have our EQ dialed in for our distortion, we're going to look at this bottom section here. So the temperature is going to be the cooler your distortion is, the more sharp the sound is going to be. So it's going to have that sharp distortion, kind of ear piercing, but not too harsh sound. It's just the more harsher side of the distortion. The red is going to be a more warm distortion. It's going to be that more favoring the bottom end and in that sense. I'll show you what it sounds like. So all the way cool.
I can make it rain on your body. Daddy, make it rain like the lottery, girl. Real girl to the floor.
And the more warm.
I can make it rain on your body. Daddy, make it rain like the lottery, girl. Real girl to the floor.
You see how we get a little bit less of that hiss, that crashy, like we get less of that when we're on the warm side, but that's what I'm going for. I don't want too much of it though, so I'm going to go about midway through the blues and get that. And then the mix is going to be how much of that distortion we're applying to our vocals. So if we turn it all the way down, it should sound clean.
I can make it rain on your body. Daddy, make it rain like the lottery, girl. Real girl to the floor. I can make it rain on your body. Daddy, make it rain like the lottery, girl. Real girl to the floor.
Nice. Very nice. So the next plugin that I want to talk about is going to be a spreader. This is one that I default to almost all the time, but I normally talk about CLA vocals to do my spreading, or Greg Wells voice centric. But in this case, we're talking about something completely different, something that is a little bit more advanced than those plugins, and it's called Abbey Road Reel ADT. Now, this vocal I went ahead and put on a bus channel because I'm processing 6 different vocals. These are all going to be, actually, these are dubs already. So these are vocals that I spread, one on this side, one on that side, all the way. So one 100% panned to the left and one 100% panned to the right. So we're essentially going to double these vocals to 12 vocals by not having to record 6 more vocals. And we did that by putting all of these on bus 1. And on bus 1, we have Abbey Road Reel ADT. Now, it might look a little strange. I know when I opened it, I had no idea what I was looking at, and there's still some stuff that I'm figuring out about this plugin too. The way to get your vocal doubled using a plugin like this is to offset the pitch just ever so slightly so that it's not off key. It's just such a slight shift in the pitch that you don't notice that it's off, but it's off enough to make it seem like it's another vocal, because that's essentially what we're going for. Whenever you're recording vocals in your song and you're doing dubs, for instance, you're doing 4 dubs, you're recording all 4 dubs. The reason why you wouldn't just copy and paste those dubs is because you want those minute differences in the vocal, in the pitch of your vocal that you're recording. Not everyone is going to be exactly the same as the one that you previously recorded. And so this is essentially doing the same thing, only you're not having to record those extra vocals. You're just kind of duplicating the vocal and then shifting it to a slightly different pitch. But this is even more advanced into where it doesn't just shift the pitch. It will get this very speed here, as you can see it going from left to right to left to right. This is the pitch shifting. So it gives you kind of like a phase effect. And I'll show you what that sounds like in an extreme sense. We have our source vocal here. I'm going to pan that to the left. We have our ADT vocal here. That's the doubled vocal. We're going to pan that to the right. This is what I did in this case. So we're getting 6 vocals that are panned once again. The DRV is drive. So that's if we want to add a little bit of a slight distortion or driver effect to our vocal, which I don't want to do. So I turn these down just a little bit because I don't want them to have too much of that distorted feel, since we already have that with our lead vocal in the Berserk plugin. Aside from that, we have our LFO range, our rate, and our shape. So LFO is going to be like an oscillator. An oscillator is something that, again, goes from this is like the wave of the pitch of that particular vocal or sound or instrument, whatever you're applying it to. And so we're getting that oscillation between that low and the high pitch. It's going to be very minute unless you change the LFO range. So right now we're at 10, which is a pretty big range. The highest we can go is 20. And as you can see, it'll go further and further from the vocal. The rate is how fast this very speed is going to be going back and forth. So if I just play these vocals, if I solo them, you can actually kind of already hear it. If you listen very closely in your headphones, you hear a little bit of that phase effect happening.
I can make it rain on your body. Daddy, make it rain like the lottery, girl.
But just to show you exactly what this plugin is doing, I'll go the super extreme version. So if we go 3, you see how fast it's going? Now listen to what the vocal's doing.
I can make it rain on your body. Daddy, make it rain like the lottery, girl.
So that's essentially what the vocal's doing. Only it's doing it very slowly. So I know it's hard to tell when it's going slower, but that's the whole point. So 0.150 is what I had it at before. And the reason why you want to have it slow is so that you don't get that. But it's still going that same range. It's very slow, but because it's going slow and we're singing, these parts, we're not going to notice it as much. It's going to seem like it's the regular fluctuations in someone's voice.
I can make it rain on your body. Daddy, make it rain like the lottery, girl.
Is it that cool phase effect? Now let's show you what it sounds like with and without this plugin. So this is without.
Daddy, make it rain like the lottery, girl. Daddy, make it rain like the lottery, girl.
So it gives it a little bit more presence because we're adding more vocals to the mix, essentially. But we're giving them a pitch modulation effect that sets them apart from the main vocals that I've already recorded. So it seems like more people are singing. And that's exactly what we want to go for when we're trying to make our vocals pop in a song, especially stand out in certain sections that sound different from other sections. Now, the last plugin that I want to talk about is going to be CLA Effects. Now, in this case, I used this plugin because I wanted to get a nice throw delay on my main chorus vocal. And that kind of gave me a little bit of an emphasis on what was being said in the chorus. But also because I had these long pauses in between certain parts of the chorus, I didn't want there to be a big giant blank space there. I wanted to fill in that space with something without me having to record an extra part or write an extra vocal there. So this is what it sounds like without the delay.
Mix a little soul with the sexual, so sexual. Mix a little soul with the sexual, so sexual. Mix a little soul.
So this is why I love delays so much, because it can fill out so much space where you don't necessarily want to record something extra. So the reason I use this delay is because I didn't want something that repeated everything that I recorded in the vocal. I wanted it to only repeat certain parts that I decided when it was triggered that it would record. So that was normally the end of the phrase or in the middle of the phrase here. Mix a little so sexual, so set you, whoa, 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 whoa. With CLA Effects, you have this throw knob here where you can throw the delay whenever you choose to have it go. So what I did was I switched this track to touch mode. And when you do that, whenever you flip this switch here, it's going to delay that vocal there. So I'm going to go with a quarter note delay here. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a quarter note. 6, 7, 8, and so that's going to be how fast that delay activates. And we're going to throw that switch to see how we want to affect this vocal here.
Mix a little soul with the sexual, so sexual. Mix a little soul with the sexual, so sexual.
Every time that you hit the throw, right on that word that you hit the throw on, that's going to be where that vocal is repeating from. So if I hit it on sexual, it's going to repeat sexual and everything after that until I let it go. Now, the way that you would kind of get this into the automation, at least in Logic Pro, is you would go to read and you would go to touch. And then when you play your track, you would just go ahead and click the button and it will automatically record the throws and the holds here.
Mix a little soul with the sexual, so sexual. Mix a little soul with the sexual, so sexual.
And then that's when you end up with something that sounds like this.
All the real girls get down on the floor. I can let you blow the horn at the pad though.
I can make it rain on your body. Daddy make it rain like the lottery. Girl, real girl to the floor.
If you got a man, treat him like a
Ooh, what you mean by that?
you already know.
Just take over control. Mix a little soul with the sexual, so sexual. Mix a little soul with the sexual, so sexual.
Be sure to download all the plugins in today's video linked in the description below, including the Berserk Distortion by Waves, a free download for 48 hours only.